In the last Congress, we passed the Honest Leadership in Government Act, which was the most significant earmark reform that Congress has ever enacted. That bill marked a growing recognition by members that the business-as-usual days of earmarks to avoid the scrutiny of the authorizing process or of competitive grants are coming to an end. It is no accident that the presidential nominees of the two major parties were major players on that reform package. The Lobbying and Ethics Reform Bill was a significant step forward, although I know some of my colleagues felt it didn't do enough to address earmarks, and of course I agreed with that. But we all agree that more reform is needed. The Fiscal Discipline, Earmark Reform, and Accountability Act of 2009, S-162, will build on that achievement. It's time to move from what has been largely a system designed to dissuade the use of earmarks through disclosure to one that actually makes it harder to enact them in the first place. The principal provision of this measure is a ban on unauthorized earmarks on appropriations bills. So the way it'll work is under our bill, any unauthorized earmark is subject to a point of order. To overcome the point of order and keep that earmark in the bill, supporters of the unauthorized earmark will have to obtain the supermajority of the Senate of 60 votes. And to make it even tougher, the bill provides that any earmark funding which is successfully stricken from the appropriations bill will be unavailable for any other spending in the bill. So it'll actually reduce the appropriation bill, and this is kind of similar to with the supermajority requirement that we have in the pay-go legislation, where you can still do something without paying for it, but you got to get a supermajority. You got to get 60 votes in order to do that. The measure also closes a loophole in last year's Lobbying and Ethics Reform Bill by requiring all appropriations conference reports and all authorizing conference reports to be electronically searchable 48 hours before the Senate considers the conference report, and it requires all recipients of federal funds to disclose any money spent on registered lobbyists. Now, I applaud President-elect Obama's announcement that the expected economic recovery bill should be kept free of earmarks. I couldn't agree more. And the best way to keep that bill and other spending bills free of earmarks is to pass the reforms we are proposing. That is why we intend to offer these reforms as an amendment to the economic recovery bill. It's not enough to keep earmarks out of just one bill. We should try to eliminate them, period. With the economic challenges we face, it's more important than ever that we enact tough earmark reform that reins in wasteful spending. I look forward to working with my colleagues here today and other colleagues from both parties to pass this bill. I'm pleased to announce, too, that in a surprise move, Senator Lieberman has agreed to join with John McCain in co-sponsoring our bill as well, so it's a tripartisan bill. And now I would like to I'd like to turn to my colleague here. After the Saturday Night Live appearance where the McCain-Feingold jewelry was introduced, at Senator McCain's request, this will be known as the Feingold-McCain bill. Senator McCain.
I'd like to again thank my friend for joining forces in our efforts, in our bipartisan efforts towards reform. One of the great honors of my political career has been the opportunity to work with Senator Feingold on issues of reform for many years. And of course, I'd like to thank Senator McCaskill, who was a key and the most important person in addressing some of the issues in the Armed Services Committee, so there's more transparency in the way that we do business there that I would like to see adopted by every committee. And of course, Dr. Coburn, who is our leader and our valiant fighter in behalf of reform. Senator Feingold just mentioned that the bill does really three key things: eliminates the unauthorized earmarks in the bill's conference reports and amending the Senate rules to allow points of order, as Senator Feingold mentioned. I'm not going to repeat him, but it does also require all appropriations and authorization conference reports to be electronically searchable at least 48 hours before full Senate consideration, and the recipients of federal dollars to disclose any amounts that the recipient expends on registered lobbyists. I don't have to tell anybody that our economy is in shambles, and we have enormous deficits, as the President-elect said yesterday, $1 trillion for the foreseeable, annually at least, for years to come, and American families are suffering very badly right now. As Senator Feingold mentioned, the ethics bill that passed the Senate was watered down, and unfortunately, although there were some improvements, certainly not what our goal is. Our goal is not transparency. Our goal is elimination of earmarks. There's no place for them in the process. Finally, let me just remind you of some of the things we've done since we passed the bill in January of 2007. $188,000 for the Lobster Institute. According to their website, the Lobster Institute is a cooperative program of research and education with the lobster industry at the University of Maine. The Lobster Institute has been working on its Lobster Cam. That's lobstercam.com. This is a lobster trap at the bottom of the ocean with a camera in it. Your dog can now, one of the Institute's major accomplishments has been lobster dog biscuits. Quote, your dog can now be a lobster connoisseur. Blue Seal Feeds Incorporated has launched the newest additions to its dog biscuit line, Blue Seal Lobster Biscuits, excuse me, my French is not that. And it's based on a concept devised by the Lobster Institute at the University of Maine and their commercialization partner, Saltwater Marketing, LLC. Since yesterday afternoon, my staff has been endeavoring and attempting to view the Lobster Cam online, and the page continues to be blank. That's $188,000. And speaking of my French, there is also there's one in Paris that $212,000 for olive fruit fly research in Paris, France. There's many others, including the $150,000 for the Montana Sheep Institute, tree plantings, and all of these places obviously are identified by a city or town so that there will be no doubt as to the recipient of the pork. $125,000 for International Mother's Day Shrine in Grafton, West Virginia. Maritime Museum in Mobile, Alabama, Hawaii rain gauges, etc., etc. We can't afford this. We simply can't afford it. And we ridicule it, but we also are saddened by it because it's obvious that at least some members of Congress don't know how serious the fiscal situation we're in, or they would not be making these kinds of proposals. So we're going to have to do everything we can to at least give Congress a real ability to eliminate them. I want to thank Senator Feingold again for his leadership, and we will be working on other reform issues in the coming weeks.